Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Happy Halloween! I teased you guys with this one back in September, but now it's time that you know the full story. The tale I'm about to tell you is only true in our imaginations. But then again, is it? Such a dreary, worthless day. Frigid like a winter morning's frost, but doused with rain. I can't record with this incessant noise. Today's episode will just have to wait. I gathered my things to take a walk outside. But just by chance, it glimpsed my eye. Something by that neighbor's tree was something that it ought not to be. Floating, swaying? Could this be so? Certainly, it would not be wise to go. Despite that, I had to take a closer look. Was that a guitar case? Or a coffin? It landed there, by the tree. The next thing I knew, it beckoned to me. I pulled the thing in from the rain. I now knew from whence it came, a UPS tag directly in sight. Another victim or a survivor this night.
Oh Dios mío, mi niño, te has encontrado con un destino terrible, ¿no? Por favor.
She had indeed met with a terrible fate. A face glazed over with a dark yellow stare. Beaten in on both corners, severed down the back. Fretboard crusted over from abuse, adorned by countless rows of rusty wire. Her body mutilated, both horns chopped, sanded down bare, and then sealed back up. Flopped pickups, upside down bridge. Her lively spring, gone. Spellbound by the curse of two witches. Have I brought you up to speed? Not yet. On the back, a carving, a cross, a symbolization of hope. Children laughing, playing. The flowers of the deities. What fate had befallen this 1972 beauty? It then came to me in a flash. While she might not look like much now, in her glory days she was very well. A loved guitar since new with a young boy who would play her every day. Over time, he became quite good. It wasn't until way later on when things had changed. He had recently joined in with a successful band. They called themselves the Sing Song. Upon showing up to their first practice, he was shoved out the door. "You can't bring that guitar in here," they shouted. "It's the devil's guitar. Don't you see that evil color?" He had never saw the guitar as evil for being red before, but really wanting to stay with this successful band, he took it home and worked on the guitar. He scraped the old red paint off and applied a fresh coat of boring brown walnut stain. "There," he said. "Surely this will be much better." He took it with him again to the band's next practice and was shocked when the same thing happened to him. "You can't bring that guitar in here. It's the devil's guitar. Don't you see those evil horns? Stop fooling around, man. We'll only give you one more chance." He had never seen how his guitar would be portrayed as demonic for its shape. But really wanting to play with this successful band, he knew he would have to change his beloved instrument yet again. This time, he noticed the singer's guitar was very rounded and had a wang bar. He had thought that perhaps by mimicking his instrument, he might finally be able to gain acceptance. He hurried home and started to do the horrible deed. It pained him to once again strip off the finish. Have to shave the wood that had always been there for him down to a rounded out husk. He drilled in the wanger, and upon reinstalling the electronics, accidentally chipped out the entire cavity and had to install a black plate for support. The new body shape rendered the old pickguard worthless, so a new one took its place. And the old Clusins snapped, bit the dust during a new tuning session, so a set of Grovers took their place. But he had finally completed the task, the dirty deed. The boy was saddened by what he had done. How could I have betrayed such a good friend just for the acceptance of others? He remorsed. Begrudgingly, he attempted to show up to the following day's band practice, but was shocked when he stepped in the door.
Finally, you have a respectable guitar here to play.
You're just missing one thing. The singer grabs the mutilated SG and turns it over. He starts to engrave. The boy shrieked. I've already changed so much. What more really needs to be done? He continues engraving, but after a few panic-inducing moments, the singer, looking a little bit strange, hands back the guitar and tells him this. I've now finally taken the devil out of your guitar. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. I've now finally taken the devil out of your guitar, he exclaims. You are now ready to join our band, Sing Song. The boy then got a flash and finally saw what he needed to see. The band's name, Sing Song. It's strange, but backwards reads No SGs. The band parted ways a few weeks after his initiation, leaving him for the dust when the record labels came. He was left alone, ashamed of what he had done to a good friend. He could never let anyone find out about his crimes. He made his loved guitar an abomination. To hide his tracks, he listed it on Facebook Marketplace for dirt cheap on an anonymous account. And that's when a curious boy named Trogly was able to pick it up and tell its tale. So yeah, about 80% of that story is made up, but some of those details in there are about right. This truly is a 1972 Gibson SG Deluxe that somebody took and modified to look like this. And while its actual story is a complete mystery to me, it has to do something with someone who is religious and saw the devil's horns on the SG, so they took it off and engraved it with a cross on the back for good measure. So why don't we go ahead and throw this one on the workbench and take a closer look at this instrument. Inside the haunted SG, we found quite a few interesting things here. So first off, yes, this is a complete refinish. This is not the original Gibson work here, obviously. But what I found interesting is, did they just apply this clear coat or whatever it is when the parts were on? Because you have no finish underneath the Bigsby. You have no finish underneath the control cavity lid. There's no finish underneath the pickguard. That's just kind of funny to see. But when I took the pickups out, oh my goodness, you'll never believe what color this guitar was at one point in time. Ugh. Puke green. What a flavor to have an SG in. Yeah, maybe that's some sort of shielding paint that I'm not aware of, but that just looks like a finish to me. But that's in both of the pickup cavities. Maybe they were going for TV yellow but messed it up. But the pickups are indeed still the original ones. This one's just lost its cover. It's a T-top pickup. And it's the version that has the patent number water slide decal here. These things are actually worth quite a bit of money, especially with the embossed pickup covers on them. That means the Gibson branding is embossed into the top of the pickup. You see how it kind of goes down inside? Since early 70s Gibsons can kind of be tricky to date, if your guitar has these, you can pretty much automatically assume it's either a late 1971 or a 72. Because 1972 is what everybody generally accepts as the only year that these were done. Complete sets with the covers, I mean, people will list them for as much as $800. Some people are crazy, they want $1,000. What do they actually sell for? About $500 to $600, I would say. But something kind of unique about the SG Deluxe version is that the wire that comes out of this is not the traditional Gibson braided style. It's kind of like a modern day style where it just kind of splits off into a grounded part and then a live wire part. But the wiring in here looks really good, but at some point in time, somebody had to have swapped those pickups around. Because this is very clearly the neck pickup, and this is very clearly the bridge pickup. And they also swapped the pickup rings around too. I thought about quickly swapping them back, but I hate it whenever I make modifications to guitars like these because this one has a story to me and I would hate to change anything about it. But the one readable pot code there is the 51st week of 1971. So that's very late December 1971, so a very early pair of these. I went ahead and did some contact cleaner in here. I don't know if it needs it. I actually haven't even plugged this guitar in. I hope it works. But you can see we've lost the toggle switch tip. We have 2 replaced speed knobs, and there's 2 witch hats. These originally came with witch hat knobs. It'd be interesting to view this under Blacklight to see if any of those are original. And this was a factory Bigsby model. You can tell that because, well, there's no holes for a stop bar tailpiece. Another good way to tell is it'll say Gibson on it right there. Not always true, but it's a good way to look. But you can see that grounding wire right there. Just sleeps right under there. But unfortunately, we're missing the spring for the Bigsby, so we can't actually really use this except for, pulling up on string tension. Those are pretty easy to replace. Unfortunately, I don't have one to spare for this guitar, though. The bridge is ABR1 in style. It was installed backwards, and it reads Gibson patent number on the back. And the pickguard's kind of interesting. It's Les Paul style, except for they have a drill hole right there, but unfortunately, I don't have that screw. So we'll take a quick look here. Yeah, they chopped some of the horn off. They chopped some of the body. I don't know what guitar this looks like to me. It almost reminds me of like a Guild or something. I don't really know a lot about those instruments, but do they have something that's just kind of boring and bland like this guitar? Because I swear I've seen this like just weird bean shape somewhere before. But you can see this is the original contour right here, and then this is just all that shaved off wood, because you can kind of see that original walnut finish yet there. Or maybe that's just left over from the puke green. But also, while they were sanding it away, they sanded through the binding on the corner right here. I'm not quite sure what that was about, but it's there. But I was able to take all the rust off the frets. I conditioned the fretboard, so it's looking much better now. It'll feel way nicer to play. But these frets, they definitely have wear, flattening spots, and they are super flat frets. That's kind of just how they were in this era, though. My favorite inlay on this one is the 4th one right here. It's just got so much figuring to it. Love it. Face of the headstock, truss rod cover is just this big black blank thing. Just to kind of put you in the mindset in case you're not, an SG aficionado. An SG standard, as you think of it, didn't actually exist until I think it was 1973 or so. That's when they stopped doing this whole top routing stuff. They switched it back to the back. They kind of started changing the way that they do the horns, things like that. So this was like the high-end SG next to the SG Custom at the time. But you got the Gibson logo and crown, wheat stack, whatever you want to call it. And you could tell that the veneer is slightly lifting. But surprisingly, even a guitar like this that's been used and abused, you can tell that truss rod is in perfect shape yet and it turns well. I was kind of scared if this guitar would actually still be playable because, did they mess something up here? Because SGs are pretty prone to heel cracks and taking wood away is not always a good idea. But it's completely stable. Get a 1.54 inch nut width. That's what people don't like about the early 70s SGs, is they have those tiny nut widths to them. So you either love them or you don't. And then at the 12th, it's 1.96.
First fret neck depth 0.76, and at the 12th 0.95, with your traditional 24 3/4 inch scale. Moving on to the back, you don't have any control cavities due to once again, the top routing system. So these SGs on the back are primed for carving into this. So they decided to do this cross. It's got a green paint along the edges. The best things that I could make out are little crosses here. Or I suppose you could symbolize them as like flowers or something. I saw some children playing down here, vaguely carved out. This almost kind of looks like a guy praying to a television or something. Or it's a swamp monster coming to get him. This almost kind of looks like an Egyptian scene. Like this is like a dragon or something, and those two are praying to it. So I don't know if this is actually a religious thing and these are, something that was duplicated onto this. So maybe someone in the comments section can tell us, or maybe it was just, an artistic thing. It doesn't appear that they added any additional contouring. I mean, you got a little bit right here, but as far as that, this is pretty much just the original one right here. So now kind of for the scary stuff. So while they didn't necessarily destroy the neck joint, if you get over here, there is a very small kind of gap forming. It's not this entire line, it's just you can kind of see it right there. There's a small gap. You can see where the neck meets to the body, but then there's just that kind of small area where you could get your nail in there if you wanted to. I really don't think it's going to cause you any issues, but I mean, good to know about, right? But other than that, I think they did pretty okay. It looks like they might have rounded this off a little bit too, and here you can kind of see some of that disgusting paint that we saw within the pickup cavities. But then the back of the neck was also refinished, but it's 3 pieces mahogany, and the body itself was all mahogany. And not too badly chewed up. I mean, it's got some impressions and stuff, but I was happy to see no headstock repair. Well, at least the kind that cracks it off like this. What is actually happening is the 3-piece mahogany neck has separated right here. So yes, you do have a large crack running down this guitar that you can definitely get your nail into. But all you need to do is put a little bit of glue in here, clamp it, then no one will ever be the wiser, because that was an initial seam that the factory did. Looking at it from this angle, it looks like the headstock's actually kind of falling apart this way, and that's kind of why we have the bending of the headstock veneer. So yeah, you might want to repair that eventually, sooner than later. I thought it was kind of cool that there's like a Harry Potter scar right here, kind of naturally within the wood grain. I know it looks like a crack stemming from there, but it's not. But something else that's fascinating about this one are the tuners on it. I've never seen Grovers like this. So you got the 70s milk bottle style, but then they're branded Gibson. I know Schaller did one that looks similar to the Grover style in this era, but this is the first pair of these I've seen. I'd be willing to bet these are worth quite a bit on their own, just as they are. So it's looking good for being functional. The current bridge pickup reads about 7.43. The neck position, about the same, 7.44, and the middle, just for fun here, 3.71. This guitar weighs 6 pounds, 15.8 ounces, so pretty much right on the nose, 7 pounds. Let's go ahead and plug her in. honestly pretty good. It's got a really nice jazzy tone to it for the cleans. But it's kind of more of a mellowy grunge tone as far as what I get when there's some distortion. It inspires me anyways. So I hope you enjoyed my Halloween special this year. I don't know if I'll be able to top it next year, but hey, we'll see what I find throughout the year. But we've got just one last thing to do with this guitar, and I think you know what that is. The Blacklight Test. Oh, goodness. This thing's a little bit scary under blacklight. It looks like, body fluids, like blood or something. I think it's just the way the mahogany body took the stain, like it has some older finish underneath it glowing more. But man, is this ominous or what? Because you've got some areas that are just completely worn through. I mean, this is terrifying, straight out of a horror film type thing. So that's your front. All your plastics are glowing as far as the pick guards go. So that tells you these guys are original. The speed knobs, no, they're not original. And it looks like only one of the witch hat knobs are original. Or maybe this one just doesn't glow for some reason. But what's kind of interesting is you see how the Bigsby glows? Now that I feel it, remember how I said they must have just sprayed over all this stuff when they did this clear coat? I mean, that definitely seems to be the case. You can kind of see that some on the plastics as well, but sometimes those will just glow on their own. Then I find the cross especially spooky with this whole paint vibe glowing thing. It's just such a fun guitar. But you can tell there's finish completely missing right there. All the dents and dings. Even this looks like a scene from Ghostbusters or something. But what I love about this thing is it's not just an abused guitar. Somebody had to have loved this thing because there's tons of fret wear on it. So it wasn't just abused to, make fun of it. Somebody needed this guitar to look just like this. And I kind of forgot to point it out on the workbench. The serial number is still there. It's just very faint. I thought for sure that would be gone when I bought it, but thankfully it is there. Then the face of the headstock, an equally ghastly glow. This, I'm pretty sure, is still the original finish. And something else you don't always see are the inlays are also glowing. So that's just fascinating. What a spooky guitar. Case-wise, yes, it's the one that was floating around my tree. So this is what was used to ship the guitar to me, so you do have some residual tape residue and stuff, but I'm not quite sure where this case came from, but that guy sure had quite a few of them. So you've got this latch, you've got this one, and you've got that one. Because the guy I got this one from, he also had a few other very questionable SGs, but unfortunately this is the only one I got to. So it kind of reminds me of one of those thermometer Telecaster cases. Kind of that vintage style. I mean, it's nothing spectacular, but it does the job. If you truly dare to be the next owner of this haunted SG, you can check out that link in the description, which will take you to the Reverb for sale page. Thank you, Troglodytes, for tuning in to this Halloween special, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.